That morning was bright but ice cold, the kind of cold that slips through the windows of even the most luxurious places in New York City. The lunch crowd was only beginning to gather when an old man pushed open the glass doors of Lame's own door, a high-end restaurant known for its marble floors, warm golden lighting, and a reputation for exclusivity. He walked in wearing a faded brown coat that had clearly seen better years. His shoes were worn out, his hat was a little crushed, and his face was lined with age and experience. To the people inside, he looked like just another elderly stranger who did not quite fit the atmosphere. No one had the slightest idea that this quiet man was actually a billionaire from Japan, someone who had built an enormous empire through decades of humility and patience. He slowly made his way to a table near the window, every step steady and thoughtful, as if each movement carried a memory. He offered the hostess a gentle smile, but she hesitated. Dressed in designer black and trained to recognize wealthy clients at a glance, she looked him over quickly and assumed he probably could not afford to eat there. Still, she forced a polite smile and guided him to a corner table. Placing a menu in front of him without saying anything more, the old man sat quietly, taking in the space around him with eyes full of calm curiosity, not criticism. The restaurant was alive with voices from businessmen in suits, couples enjoying their meals, and tourists taking pictures of their fancy dishes. No one paid attention to him. He tried to get a waiter's attention, but each one brushed past him as if he were invisible. Minutes slowly became half an hour. His water glass sat empty. The menu lay untouched. No one had even asked for his order, yet he remained there, patient and still, hands folded in front of him. Not because he felt helpless, but because he carried a lifelong habit of quiet endurance. The calm he carried was the kind that belonged to someone who had spent a lifetime being underestimated. The truth was, no one in that restaurant had the slightest idea who he really was. The old man was Mr. Kenji Takahiro, one of the most respected industrialists in all of Japan. And he had not come to America for business or publicity. He had come for something deeply personal. Many decades earlier, when he was a young engineer studying abroad, he had fallen in love with a woman from the city. They shared dreams, late-night conversations, and countless letters even after he returned home. But life moved them in different directions. Although he went on to build a vast empire, he never stopped thinking about her. Now, widowed and alone, he had come back to walk the same streets they once walked together, hoping to feel even a small trace of her memory dot as time passed. More customers began to notice him sitting quietly in the corner. Some whispered that he might be lost. Others thought he was waiting for someone who would never come. The staff exchanged uncomfortable glances, wondering if they should gently ask him to leave. But before anyone could do anything, a young waitress named Emily noticed him. Emily was new to the job, juggling double shifts so she could pay her mother's medical bills and support her younger brother's education. Exhausted but still carrying a heart full of kindness, she watched the old man bow his head slightly to every passing waiter, only to be overlooked again and again. Something inside her tightened. It reminded her of her late father, who had picked up the habit of bowing gently during his years working in Japan. Without a second thought, Emily walked toward the old man's table. Her expression was warm and gentle. When he looked up, she offered him a sincere smile and bowed slightly. Then, in careful Japanese, she greeted him, "Konnichiwa." "Oh, Genki desu ka?" "Hello, how are you?" The entire restaurant seemed to pause. The old man's eyes widened, and for the first time that day, they sparkled. His lips trembled before forming a grateful smile. In a soft, emotional voice, he asked her name in Japanese. Emily bowed again and answered, doing her best to speak the language she had studied in school. She told him how much she admired Japanese culture and had always wanted to learn more about it. In that moment, Something quiet and meaningful passed between them. Something beyond language, beyond appearance, beyond circumstance. Emily took his order with genuine care, making sure every detail was just right. She poured his water herself, adjusted his napkin, and even brought him a cup of green tea instead of coffee. Whispering gently that she remembered Japanese guests preferred it. Mr. Takahiro clasped his hands together and bowed his head slightly before taking a sip. Such a simple gesture, yet in that moment he felt seen, respected, and valued. Not for his wealth, not for his reputation, but simply for being human. As Emily served him, a quiet dignity settled around them. Other diners began to notice the warmth in her movements and the gratitude in his eyes. Whispers slowly faded into silence as guilt settled over the people who had judged the old man, based on nothing more than his worn coat and tired shoes. Even the manager, who had overheard small pieces of the conversation between Emily and the old man, stood stiff behind the counter. A sudden realization washed over him, leaving him unsure of what to do next. When the meal ended, Mr. Takahiro quietly asked for the bill. But before Emily could even respond, the manager rushed over, stumbling over his words as he apologized again and again, insisting that the meal would be free. The old man shook his head gently. "No," he said, his English slow but steady. "Respect cannot be free." Then, with a grace that commanded attention without trying to, he reached into his coat and took out a small black card that only a rare few in the world possessed. He handed it to Emily along with a business card embossed in shimmering gold. Emily looked down, confused at first until she read the name. Her breath caught. Her eyes widened. Kenji Takahiro. "Takahiro Group," she whispered. The manager nearly dropped the tray in his hands. Mr. Takahiro offered a faint smile. "Kindness," he said softly, "is the most expensive thing in the world. But you gave it freely. Thank you." He stood, bowed deeply to Emily, and walked out of the restaurant with steps that seemed lighter than when he had entered. His heart felt full. The next morning, when Emily arrived at work, the entire staff was buzzing like a hive. Someone rushed over holding a newspaper. A national outlet had published a glowing feature about the restaurant. A Japanese billionaire had visited in secret, praising the kindness of one waitress who treated him with dignity when no one else would. Minutes later, the manager handed Emily an envelope with her name written neatly across the front. Inside was a handwritten note and a sponsorship letter. Mr. Takahiro had offered to pay for her college tuition and support her family's expenses. In the letter, he explained that her kindness had reminded him of someone he once loved dearly, and he wanted to honor that memory by helping her the way she helped him. Emily read the letter again and again as her eyes blurred with tears. For her, it wasn't the money. It was the reminder that kindness given from the heart never goes unnoticed. It always finds its way back in ways no one can predict. As the sun dipped behind the city skyline that evening, Emily stood by the same window where Mr. Takahiro had sat the day before. The golden light reflected softly across her face. Somewhere across the ocean, an old man sipped his tea with a peaceful smile, grateful that in a world that often looks away, one young waitress remembered a truth he had lived by all his life. Kindness still speaks every language. It travels across countries, across oceans, across generations. Sometimes all it takes are the simplest words. Konnichiwa. O genki desu ka? Hello, how are you? Because in the end, kindness is the truest form of wealth. If this story touched your heart, make sure to subscribe to Lonja Tales for more emotional, inspiring stories just like this one. And before you go, tell me in the comments below, what is one act of kindness you experienced that you will never forget? Your story might inspire someone else today.